All right, so today let's take a deep dive into something I think we've all experienced at some point, burns.
Yeah.
Whether it's a too hot cup of coffee
Yeah.
or that time you swore you could handle that super spicy chili.
Yeah, for sure.
Burns are surprisingly common.
They really are. In fact, they're one of the most frequent household injuries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And what's even more surprising? There are a ton of misconceptions out there about how to actually treat them.
That's right. And that's why we're here to kind of give you all the knowledge you need to handle those burns like a pro.
Right.
And maybe even debunk some of those myths you've heard along the way. Like, I'm sure someone's told you to put butter on a burn, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
My grandmother swore by it.
Yeah.
But is that really a good idea?
Well, we'll get to that a little bit later. But
Yeah.
first, let's talk about the different types of burns. Because even seemingly minor ones can be more complex than they appear.
Right. And I remember learning about first, second, and third degree burns back in school, but it's all kind of a blur now.
Sure.
Can you give us a refresher?
Absolutely. Think of it like this. A first-degree burn is like a mild sunburn. You get that redness, a little pain, maybe some swelling. It's like a light pink piece of construction paper.
Okay.
It's annoying, but it usually heals pretty quickly.
Yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of those. What about second degree burns?
Now, those are a bit more serious. Imagine grabbing a hot pan straight from the oven without an oven mitt.
Ouch, I can already feel the pain.
You're looking at blisters, more intense pain, and longer healing time. These burns affect not just the top layer of skin, but also some of the underlying tissue. They might look like a blistered red tomato.
Yikes. And I guess that means third degree burns are the most severe.
Exactly. They penetrate all layers of the skin and can even damage deeper tissues, muscles, and bones. Think of the kind of damage you might see from a house fire. These burns always require immediate medical attention.
Wow, that sounds incredibly serious. So if you ever encounter a third degree burn, it's straight to the hospital, no messing around.
Absolutely. But for those less severe burns, first and second degree, there are definitely things you can do at home to help.
Okay, so let's talk about home treatment. I've always heard that you should immediately run cold water over a burn. Is that true?
You got it. Cool running water is the absolute MVP of burn treatment. And I emphasize cool, not ice cold.
Okay.
Run that water over the burn for a good 15 to 20 minutes.
I've also heard that you should use ice on a burn. Is that a bad idea then?
While ice might seem like a good idea because it's cold, it can actually restrict blood flow to the area and cause further damage to the tissue. You want to cool the burn, not freeze it.
So it's like when you burn your mouth on hot pizza, ice cream doesn't really help. It just makes it worse.
That's a great analogy. It's all about gentle cooling, not extreme temperatures. Now, the reason cool water works so well is that it literally stops the burning process. It helps dissipate heat and stops those damaging chemical reactions that are happening within the burned skin.
That's fascinating. I never knew the science behind it. So cool water first. What's next?
After cooling the burn, you want to gently clean the area with mild soap and water. Don't scrub it, just a gentle clean will do. For first-degree burns, applying a moisturizer like aloe vera can help soothe the skin.
And what about blisters? Those are pretty common with second-degree burns.
All right, and it's important to resist the urge to pop them. Blisters act as a natural barrier against infection.
So just keep the area clean and covered.
Exactly. A sterile bandage will do the trick. And if the burn is causing a lot of pain, you can take an over-the-counter pain reliever, like acetaminophen or ibuprofen.
Good to know. And if the burn is on a limb, I guess elevating it can help reduce swelling too.
Exactly. And probably the most important thing to remember when treating a burn at home is to keep an eye out for any signs of infection. Increased pain, redness, swelling, or pus are all signs that you should seek medical attention.
Got it. Now I'm dying to talk about those grandma's remedies we talked about earlier. Like buttered toothpaste, egg whites, things people swear by but might not actually work.
That's a great segue. Now that we know how to treat burns properly, let's tackle some of those persistent myths that can actually do more harm than good.
Perfect. Let's debunk some myths. Okay, let's start with the classic butter. Why do people think slathering a burn with butter is a good idea?
Well, it's one of those things that's been passed down for generations.
Right.
Maybe people thought it was soothing because it's soft and creamy. But here's the thing, butter traps heat. So instead of cooling the burn, it actually keeps that heat in, which can make the burn worse.
Wow, that's counterintuitive. I would thought it would have the opposite effect.
Yeah, and not only does it trap heat, but there's also the risk of, introducing bacteria into the burn, which could lead to an infection. So as tempting as it might be to reach for the butter dish, just resist the urge.
Butter officially debunked. What about toothpaste? I've heard that one too.
Toothpaste is another one that seems like it should work. It's minty, it feels cool,
Yeah.
but again, it's not designed for burns. Some toothpaste contain ingredients that can irritate the burn and actually delay healing. Plus, have you ever tried to get dried toothpaste off of anything? It's a nightmare.
That's a great point. Okay, so we're tossing out butter toothpaste.
Sure.
What about egg whites? I feel like I've heard that one for sunburns too.
Ah, the egg white myth. It's a classic, but there's really no scientific evidence to support it. Egg whites don't have any magical healing properties for burns, and again, you run the risk of introducing bacteria.
So no magical egg white cure.
Duh.
Bummer. Okay, so are there any other common burn myths that we should tackle?
Oh, there are plenty. People have tried all sorts of strange things on burns over the years. I think the bottom line is if it's not a medically approved burn treatment, it's probably best to avoid it. Stick to what we know works: cool, water-clean bandages and over-the-counter pain relief if needed.
So we've talked about what to do when you get a burn, what not to do. But what about preventing burns in the first place? Are there any tips for avoiding these situations altogether?
Absolutely. Prevention is key, and a lot of it comes down to being aware of potential hazards and taking simple precautions, especially if you have young children. Think about it this way. Burns are often just a result of simple accidents.
That makes sense. So what are some practical things people can do to make their homes safer and prevent burns?
Well, first and foremost, make sure your smoke detectors are working. That's absolutely crucial in case of a fire, which is one of the most serious causes of burns.
That's a good reminder. What about in the kitchen? It seems like that's where a lot of burns happen.
You're right, the kitchen can definitely be a danger zone. A simple rule of thumb is to keep hot liquids away from the edge of counters and tables.
Okay.
This is especially important if you have kids running around.
I'm definitely guilty of putting pots on the front burner for easy access. Maybe I should rethink that habit.
Yeah, it's a small change, but it can make a big difference. And of course, always use oven mitts and pot holders when handling hot dishes.
No more grabbing hot pans with a dish towel. What about preventing burns in the bathroom?
Always test the bathwater temperature before putting a child in the tub.
Oh, yeah.
It only takes a second and can prevent a really painful burn. You can also set your water heater to a lower temperature to just reduce the risk of scalding overall.
Yeah, those are all great tips. Anything else people should keep in mind?
Be mindful of electrical cords and appliances. Make sure they're in good condition and not frayed or damaged. A faulty electrical cord can easily cause a fire.
And I'm guessing this applies to candles too, right?
Definitely. Never leave a burning candle unattended and keep them well out of reach of children and pets.
So it sounds like awareness is a huge part of prevention. Just being mindful of potential hazards and taking simple precautions can go a long way.
Exactly. And remember, if you do get a burn, don't panic. Just stay calm, follow the proper treatment steps, and seek medical attention if needed.
We've covered a lot of ground today, understanding the different degrees of burns, debunking myths, talking about prevention. I'm curious, what are some key takeaways you want our listeners to remember from all of this? So much good information. Where do we even begin?
Well, I think the most important takeaway is that even those seemingly simple burns, they require careful attention. Don't underestimate the power of that cool running water.
Right.
And fight the urge to try those home remedies that we talked about. Those can actually make things worse.
Yeah. It's like you said earlier, cool water, clean bandages, and over-the-counter pain relief.
Exactly.
And of course, if you have any doubts at all, it's always best to consult a doctor.
Absolutely. Now, thinking beyond the immediate treatment of a burn, this raises an important question.
What's that?
We've talked about the physical healing process, but what about the emotional impact of a burn, especially a serious one?
That's a really good point. I hadn't even considered that burns can leave scars both physically and emotionally.
Exactly. And those scars can have a long-lasting impact on someone's life.
Right.
It's not just about, healing that wound. It's about supporting the whole person.
So it's a much deeper issue than just treating the initial burn.
It really is. Understanding the psychological impact of a burn is crucial for a complete recovery.
We've covered so much ground today, from the practicalities of first aid to the deeper aspects of healing. This has been a really eye-opening deep dive.
It's fascinating how a topic like burns can reveal so much about our bodies, our assumptions, and our ability to bounce back.
I feel like I've learned so much, and I bet our listeners have too. We have busted myths, explored the science behind proper burn treatment, and even touched on the emotional side of recovery.
And all of this connects right back to you, the listener. You now have the knowledge to handle a burn situation with confidence. You know what to do, what not to do, and why it matters.
It's amazing how knowledge can empower us to take action.
Absolutely. So the next time you encounter a burn, remember what we've talked about today. You're more prepared than ever to handle it.
And who knows, you might even be able to share this knowledge with someone else and help them avoid some of those common mistakes.
Sharing knowledge is a powerful thing.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on. That wraps up our deep dive into the world of burns. Stay safe, stay informed, and as always, keep learning.
Until next time.